Hey, hey, welcome to Your Best Podcast, where we are going to discover all the ways, the paths, the people that can help us to have our best. I'm your host, Teemaree, the best life coach, and I help my clients have breakthroughs in life, health, business, their spirituality. So you know that I love this, okay? I love this with all of my heart, and I love also meeting and introducing you to new people like Alyssa Brade. She is a millennial mom and an author, and she helps fellow mothers to explore tools to reduce burnout, reclaim their overall well-being, and rediscover their power. So you know, we're all about that here. Alyssa, welcome to the show. Welcome. Please let us know immediately about your website and where we can connect with you.
Thank you so much for having me, Teemaree. I'm so excited to be here. You can find me on Facebook at Alyssa Brade Author. You can also look at my website, www.alyssabrade.com. And my book, Mommy Needs a Minute, From Burnout to Empowerment, is available on Amazon.
Yes. I love all of this. And just so y'all know, don't worry. I know we kicked it right off with all the info, but it'll be in the show notes too. So relax, enjoy, grab a cup of tea. I don't know, get ready, focused on the road. However, you're going to be, enjoying this conversation. We will have you covered in this show description as well. But I'd just like to kick it off right off the top with where we can connect, because that's like super important. Now, I like to start with a game. First, I guess we'll discuss what this episode is going to be: navigating burnout as a mom, right? Because there's so much there to unpack that is really like helpful. And I know there's a lot of healing and goodness involved in that. But first, we're going to play a game. Okay. So we're going to play a game, Alyssa, and it's going to be awesome.
Okay.
The game is going to be called, and all you're going to do is fill in the blank. This is off the cuff. You don't have to worry about anything being like super like logical or right or wrong. This is off the cuff. We want to know about you, Alyssa. We want to share our heart here, girl. So the game is called, and you're going to fill in the blank. Mommy might need a minute, and you're going to fill in the blank. Okay. And don't worry.
All right.
This is all for fun. Okay. So mommy might need a minute before
walk with the toddlers.
Woohoo! Yes. Okay. Mommy might need a minute after
Incident potty training.
Yes, that's true. Those can get tough, even when they're babies, right? And it's just like,
Yep.
oh my gosh, you're so tiny, but yeah. Okay. So mommy might need a minute during
Dinner time.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Have you ever watched A Christmas Story, the movie?
Yes.
Okay. So it's so funny when he's like, my mom hasn't had a hot meal because she's always getting up and helping like everyone else. I love that. Okay. Mommy might need a minute at
work.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Juggling work and parenthood is a lot. And lastly, mommy might need a minute for
myself.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I could tell this is already going to be empowering and important. Can I just tell you, okay, that as a mother myself, my kids are empty nesters, so they're not small anymore. But, well, they're not empty nesters. I'm the empty nesters because they left the nest. Let's reverse that. But, one of the biggest things that I went through is feeling guilty about needing a minute, feeling guilty to take a minute. My husband would tell me, why don't you just go to the gym? They're okay. Especially as they were getting older. Just go to the gym. And I'd be like, but they're home from school. And he'd be like, but they're, yeah, somehow, so I love that we're kicking things off. As a coach, I know how important, how necessary, how good it is to improve things, right? And as a mother, now empty nester, I just really wish, as I saw your information, as I saw what you're sharing, I would have so been able to use what, back then I would have been just so served by what you share now. And so I'm really excited to have you here. I love what you're talking about in terms of mommy needing a minute, in terms of just empowering women to find tools, to find that space. So I'm so excited. Let's dive right in. You talk about maternal wellness. What does that mean for you?
I think maternal wellness, a big part of it, and something that is often missed, is looking at that stage of life that comes postpartum. It's more than just the 6 weeks after you had a baby. It's a complete identity shift. And lots of values that you had before might be changing. Your physical body, even after it looks the same, has undergone a massive change, and it will very likely never feel the same. And maternal wellness, I believe, is getting to a point where you have taken the time to acknowledge those changes, address them, and taken the time to reacquaint yourself with an authentic version of yourself in this new role. And a lot of people, I feel, don't experience that maternal wellness and have a hard time getting to that point. We get lost in our jobs, in our kids, and we lose ourselves because we aren't taking the time to, one, identify that this was a huge transitional change, similar to a change that a teenager goes through during puberty, and it forever changes your identity and your perception and your values. And a lot of people don't take the time to establish how that impacts their life and how to be an authentic version of themselves without losing themselves going forward.
I think that that's fantastic and spot on. One of the main things I think that I had experienced and what I find with my clients as I'm coaching them to find those new perspectives or identify these new areas in their life or just come to terms with things that have changed now is that there doesn't seem to be this pocket of time. So there's this idea that when I have a pocket of time, then I can sit down and maybe think about this. Obviously, when kids are present and when they're young, this never seems to ever appear. This pocket of time just doesn't appear. So what would you say when it comes to being able to take that time? What does that look like for the active mother in the throes of all of this?
I think a big part of it is recognizing that you can prioritize yourself, and that doesn't make you a bad mom. It doesn't make you a bad partner. It doesn't make you a failure as a woman to prioritize your own needs. I think a lot of women really struggle with the self-sacrificing mentality. A lot of women I talk to kind of play that role of me last, me last. And I think what ends up happening is we lose ourselves. And the biggest tragedy that many of us don't realize is that our families lose us also when we lose that authentic version of ourselves. So when you're in the throes of motherhood, I think that one of your biggest priorities should be taking time for yourself. I think that I know it isn't easy as somebody who worked 60 hours a week, full-time mom at home with a partner gone 90 hours a week. I know how hard it is to find time for yourself. One of the biggest things I did is I prioritized after my kids went to bed, I prioritized work in the evening, and then I would go to bed early and I would wake up at 4 a.m., which for many people is an ungodly hour, but I would wake up at 4 a.m. And that was the hour I spent to myself to get my head where it needed to be for the day, to take some time to assess myself. It was peaceful. It was quiet. I could sip my tea. And at first, I remember my husband telling me that that was so important. And I told him, like, there's no return on investment. That's why on earth would I get up early and do something that, one, isn't contributing to our finances, or two, isn't contributing to our family. And it wasn't until I realized that the investment in myself is one of the biggest gifts that I can give to my family, to my children. And in doing that, it shifts your entire family dynamic. It changes your life.
I think so, 1000%. And it is actually a component of the coaching that I I bridge with my clients that are in that space, because as women, I feel many of us inherently have those self-sacrificing beliefs. Many of us inherently have this servant dynamic. We want to serve our families. We want to serve ourselves in the best way. We want to serve our careers. We want to serve our purpose. We want to do all of the things. And so it feels so strange to enter into this thought of the seemingly doing nothing is in great service to all the serving that I want to do and am doing. And so it is wonderful that you're touching on this and really claiming it. I know for me, back in the day, it was the night. The night was my time. It was like, okay, everyone's in bed. And now, of course, that window is small too, because you're tired also. And then so eventually you go to bed. But that was a special time to something even so simple as just watch something uninterrupted, take an extra long bath, I know. It was like very, very important. But it's funny because if someone would have told me, even though I would steal those moments away, if someone would have told me you should do this actually to serve your family and the dynamic and yourself in a creative way, I can honestly tell you I wouldn't have understood it back then as that, having that purpose. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And I think it is very interesting and so eloquently put, because I think a lot of times it's something I explore a little bit in the book, the societal and cultural factors that influence these deep, deep beliefs that we have about ourselves, how we should perform, how we should show up, what it means to be a good mom, what it means to be a good partner, and these expectations we put on ourselves, and the extreme guilt we feel over taking time for ourselves, and how when we do that, we are also modeling to our children, whether we have girls or boys, we're modeling this perception that you should feel guilty prioritizing yourself. You should feel guilty putting yourself first. And we're raising generation after generation that the expectation is everybody else's needs should come first, and you just get the leftovers. And I feel like we would never give that advice to someone we love. So why would you give that advice to yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a subconscious thing, to be honest with you. I really think that right now what's happening. So before, I think there was a lot of generational kind of rollover of thoughts and habits and things like you say, it's modeled before us. So we feel this is how love is expressed or what should be done, etc. But I feel like now with the advent of social media and what is presented before us, it can really easily slide into this thought that, look, I'm the best life coach. So even in the title, if we don't explain this, someone might think there's a best life. The best life is the life that you are happy to lead. The best life is the life you feel proud that you've taken ownership over. The best life is the life that you are conscious of. But so many of us aren't conscious of our life. It's this series of maybe events or choices that are dictated by societal pressures and things that were like, if we really took that time and asked and said, hey, do I really want to work all day and barely scrounge, eat standing up and, go through these motions? I love that you touch on that. How do you feel these societal pressures have impacted you as a millennial mom? What impact did it have to see all these things around you?
So I have a bit of a long-winded story that I'll try and be brief on with that. It was partly the inspiration for the book. So I was very career-oriented. I really planned on focusing on my career. Kids weren't in the picture. And then I decided to pursue my master's degree. And I really, truly was of the belief women can't have it all. I was like, I see women who struggle with their career, struggle to be a mom, struggle to do it all, and end up either one side or the other of the spectrum miserable and burned out. And so I was like, I'm not having kids. I'm focusing on my career. Well, unexpectedly got pregnant during COVID, had my firstborn and kept working, still was working, doing my master's degree and working as well from home with a newborn. Unexpectedly got pregnant with my second a couple months later. and um, and I was like, well, I'm still pursuing my career. I was like, no matter what it takes, I am still pursuing the career and I can do it all. And I can make all the organic food and I can be the ever present mom. And every single bit of information under the sun, I'll read it and I'm going to nail motherhood and I'm also going to nail this career. And needless to say, I was exhausted and miserable and I was never fully present for my kids. I was never fully present for my job, never fully present for my husband. It was a constant, even if it wasn't always physically going, it was the constant mental load always going. And I think those societal pressures of when we see women on social media who are like, oh, I make $100,000 a year and I work from home and I manage my business 2 hours a day flawlessly and my house is beautiful and my kids are great. And I think it creates this expectation within us that we're like, what am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me that I can't achieve what everybody else seems to be achieving so effortlessly? And so it was this kind of dichotomy of before I became a mom, I was like, no way women can have it all. And after I became a mom, I was like, well, I'm going to find a way to have it all because now that's what all the other moms are doing apparently, and I can do it too. And so long story short, it led to me working like 60 hours a week and being home full time with my son. And I was exhausted and sick during my pregnancy. I ended up fainting while carrying my 8-month-old down the stairs.
Oh, geez.
Body just totally shut down, fainted, and dropped him on the cement. And it cracked his skull and he had internal brain bleeding, took him to the emergency room, and our little hospital told us he might not make it. He might not live. And they had him helicoptered to a pediatric neurosurgeon in a bigger city. And you can imagine the mom guilt, the exhaustion, the stress. When we got there, the lead pediatrician did another MRI and miraculously the bleeding in his brain stopped. My son is now 3.5 years old, hitting all of his milestones, very healthy, happy, very energetic little boy. But that was the wake up call I needed to be like, what am I sacrificing to have it all? And while not every woman has a story like that, many women have a story like that to varying degrees. The exhaustion, the burnout, the health complications, the mental toll, and we keep going because we have this perception that we need to keep going and we don't complain. And if we complain, we're bad moms who don't want their kids. And instead, we stuff it and we're inauthentic with ourselves and we're inauthentic with each other. And it keeps the cycle going that it's normal. You should be exhausted. Motherhood is hard and having a career is hard and life is miserable. And that's the way it is right now. And I think that's such a disservice to yourself, to other women, to your own children. So after that incident, I was like, I'm not living like this anymore. I can't keep doing this. Something needs to give, or I'm not going to even be around in any healthy capacity for my family in the next 20 years.
Yeah, I love that you made that distinction. So many of the women that I coach, we have to walk through these steps. So we have to walk through these steps of first identifying like, okay, what you've decided is normal. If it's not serving anymore, well, what can we shift? What can we shift here in this whole atmosphere? Okay, yeah, it might seem hard because it's totally new, right? But now that we're making this shift, then what possibilities are now open? Then what new ways of being or experiencing your life are open? Sometimes it's even just sitting down and saying that, well, wait a second, just take a breath. Okay, hold on. Is life right now just the true you? Like forget everything else, just the truest you. Is life right now how you want it to be? And a lot of times it isn't. And I love where you're starting to take us because I really wanted to ask you about this just because I know, you're kind of talking about this, but how does one differentiate? They're in the motherhood experience of life. And like you said, so often it kind of like you haven't even birthed the child and you've got folks telling you you're not going to sleep. It's going to be tough for a while. And then, oh, well, terrible twos are coming. And then, oh, well, this is coming and potty train and this. So there's this expectation that stuff is just going to be hard for quite a while. How would you say a mother can differentiate or start to differentiate between, hey, this is natural motherhood and this over here is actually burnout? What is the difference? How can one figure that out?
I think that's such a great question. I would say, I know I keep coming back to this, but I think when you take the time to authentically decide what part of your parenting journey aligns with who you are, it becomes easier to reduce burnout and embrace the hard. Life is full of hardships. Nobody makes it through life without experiencing challenges. It's part of what makes us grow. It's part of how we develop. It develops our resilience, our character. And so I think if you expect motherhood to be easy, there, like you said, there's a clear distinction between things in life are just hard sometimes, and that's normal. But it doesn't mean you have to be miserable all the time. So I think the biggest thing that helped me distinguish from hard, normal things of motherhood from burnout was the authentically starting to parent, not from a place where I was trying to make everybody else happy and I was trying to do it by the book and I was trying to look good on social media and I was trying to look like everybody else was doing it, but by getting to a point where I was like, this is who I am. This is what I love. This is what I don't love. This is what I need in my family. And I made a rule that I was like, I don't want to reinforce any habits in my kids that make me not like them or that make me not want to be around them. And those habits might be fine in other people's households. That's great. But I want to enjoy my kids. I want to enjoy my space. I don't want to be burned out by living a life or a parenting style that's not authentic to me. So I took the time to determine what I loved, what I needed, and then tried to adopt my parenting to fit that. And the beautiful thing is that your kids adapt well to that too, because you're doing it authentically and you're not burning out and you're not flipping back and forth because you're operating that from a place that's true to your soul. And your kids are so unique and so individual, and so are you. So why would you apply a one size fits all parenting technique to something as unique and individual as your children? You don't do that with your clothing. Why would you do it with your life?
I love that. I love that so much. And that's really, really key. I love how you said, I don't want to basically instill or create or have my children be a way that I wouldn't like them to be, that I don't want to live. That's, oh my God, that is so that's such cool, advanced thinking, and to even have the awareness to say, hey, you know what? There's all these options here, but what is authentic to me? And finally, oh my God, to be able to, because parents go through this a lot and women go through this a lot, where, we love our children, of course, but a lot of times it's like, I'll hear women, parents, men too, but they'll say, but the kids are going to have such a hard time with this. Oh, but the kids. And I'm like, actually, no, the kids will change. They're so full of joy and openness and curiosity that oftentimes, just like you said, when we're leading authentically, they're going to follow suit. And oftentimes they may surprise us and actually be like super cool with the change, even faster than what we thought. Has that been your experience?
I feel like personally it has been, because what I found for my own life is when I adopted a parenting philosophy or a certain style in our house or a certain way that we handled a behavior, and it wasn't authentic to who I was, one, it was hard for me to follow through. So if I was stressed or exhausted or overwhelmed or overstimulated, which happens 99% of the time, it was really hard to follow through on it. Versus if it was something like, this is authentic to who I am, to how I feel, to how I view the world, to how I look at it, it's a lot easier to follow through on it. And it also comes across more authentic to your children. Children, I feel like, are very intuitive. They pick up on things that are consistent. And I also think children, they they remember the quality of your actions and the quality of the time you spend with them, not necessarily the quantity. And so if you're doing something authentic to you and it means reducing some of the time you spend with your kids or reducing something else in your another area of your life so you can show up more authentically, quality will always trump quantity. And that was something I had to remind myself of too with my children, is like, being there all the time and being burned out and miserable and exhausted is less effective for my children than taking a little time for myself when I need it and when they're with a safe adult that I trust.
Yes.
Taking some time for myself, it enables me to show up more authentically. It enables me to parent better. It helps me enjoy my children more. It helps them enjoy me more. And even though the quantity of time on certain days is reduced, the quality is tenfold.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I really wish that I would have known that when I was raising my children. When I was raising my kids, I was working all the time and I also had them all the time. So it was all the things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I really do know now that that breath, that taking the moment to really assess is incredibly important because, like you said about the quality, it was important for me to be with them. But the quality of my being with them wasn't always to the degree at which I would have liked it to be because I just had needs in other areas of my life that were not being met, just as a human being, as a woman. Because, like you said, you get burned out, you get tired. Sometimes you get a little bit resentful. You're short, your fuse is short. There's all these things happening. There's pressure. So even though there were plenty of wonderful times, I'm like, man, if I would have had the opportunity, and it hit me in a crazy way. We were on vacation and we were already empty nesters, and I'm sitting in the hotel lobby and I'm there because that's where I have Wi-Fi. And so I want to do an Instagram post. And I look over at this family and it's the mom and the dad and this boy. And he's just in the height of joy in that moment. He's like, mommy, 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 and wanting to share. But mom's not able to be there right now. And it's human and I remember looking at this interaction of the family and it deeply moved me because I thought, wow, how many of those special times did I miss? Because at my capacity level, that was like, one mommy too much that day, or, oh, I was tired and I actually just needed rest, or this is the one time we're out, my baby, please, we have those moments. So I love that you're engaging in this conversation to empower women to take that break and that breath and to come from a place of authenticity. One thing I have a question about though is those societal pressures, they're happening all the time. So what happens as a mother if you do start to decide, you say, hey, this is authentic to me, and then you go visit the family? And then you go to the friend's house, right? Please walk us through how you navigate the input that you receive based on maybe choices you're making, or how do you do that?
I think it's a great question because it's so easy. I think parenting is one of the highest stakes jobs that you can have. And there's a lot of pressure to do it right. And everybody has a different idea of what it means to do it right. So what I have found is that most often the mom guilt that I feel within myself is often triggered when I compare what I'm doing to what other people are doing. And then when I feel like what I'm doing doesn't measure up. And then I end up either judging them or judging myself through them. I believe it was Brene Brown who talks about we often judge others for the very things that we don't like, that we see in them that are actually within ourselves. And so family input is very important. Friend input is very important. I think it's valuable to acknowledge advice. to process and see how much weight the advice has. There's always room to grow and develop. But it's important when you have a firm grasp of your identity and you are in a deep relationship with yourself and well connected with yourself. It's easier to look at that advice and go, oh, thank you so much for sharing. That's not true to where I'm at in my parenting journey right now. And also to take that advice and look at it and see where some of it might have some truth. It's easier to decipher the better we know ourselves. And I think when we don't take the time to know ourselves, that's when we can bounce back and forth and we get offended when people give advice, or we go 180 and we follow their advice. And now we're all over the place because this person said this advice and this person gave this advice. But the more confident we are in ourselves, the better relationship you establish with yourself. The more you know who you are and what you like and what does and doesn't work for you. It's like I could tell you what my husband does or doesn't like for dinner. Because I know him, because we've established that relationship and we've taken the time to have conversations every day about what he likes, what he doesn't like. And if you don't take that time to know yourself, it's way easier for everybody else to tell you what you should like and what you should do. And it's easy to follow it because it's easier for somebody else to tell you what you should like than it is to take the time to discover who you actually are. And I think a lot of the times that's where people get caught up in advice that might not be best suited for who you are.
It's so true. And that is absolutely the truth, because it is very challenging to take the moments to look at ourselves. It is not something that we innately have a relationship with ourselves. We innately have intuition. We innately have these subconscious and conscious levels of thinking and being, but we do not have innately, automatically, a way to know ourselves. There is no way that we are going to know ourselves with so much input constantly being put in front of our eyes, in our ears, all around us. And now it's only magnified because of this phenomenal connection that we do have digitally. So it's a good tool, but it's also now a cacophony of just voices and opinions and thoughts and trends. And oh my gosh. So that is why this work of who am I? What is important to me? What do I inherently like? And even that, I will tell you something. There are many times even things we think we like, if we really think about it, do we like it? Or is that just something we habitually do after one good time? It goes deep. It's incredible. It's phenomenal. And that's why I have a coaching program for confidence, because even I, like you said, oh man, I have this richer way of showing up now that I know what's authentic to me. I have this richer way of being with my kids and my husband and myself. And I found the same thing, I tell you. And I always identified as someone that was very, very confident. And yet when I discovered this and developed it later then for my clients, I was like, oh my gosh, the little fears and subconscious things that actually were ruling me that I didn't even know I didn't know. It's grand.
Amazing. And I'm so glad you are at that point and at a point where you can impart that knowledge to others, because it's the best thing you can invest in is yourself and your mental health. And I will stand and shout that message to the day I die. The best investment you can make is in your own perception of yourself, your own relationship with yourself. And it's not something that comes naturally or easy. And like you said, it's incredible the things that we think that we like, that when we think about it and we actually dig deeper in the layers, we're like, oh, I just like that because it's trending. This influencer says I should like it because my mom told me for years that this is what I was supposed to do. Like it's layers and layers of how we've built our life around this perception of self that has been so influenced by everything but ourselves.
Girl. Woohoo! Now you help mothers with tools. So let's talk a little bit about the tools you use, and then of course tell us about your book.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. So a little bit, the book is broken down into chapters. It's meant to be accessible to moms who do not have a lot of time So I want you to be able to take a minute, and that means not picking up a 400-page book. That seems a little daunting. So each chapter is broken down into different areas of burnout that I felt and researched that a lot of women feel, especially during motherhood. So information burnout, body burnout, mental health burnout, career burnout, identity burnout, guilt burnout, uh, judgment burnout, body burnout. We kind of talk about all these different areas of your life. I would say there's so much information there. You could write a book on each one of those individual chapters, and it's packed full of resources for moms to look at. I would say one of the best things that you can do is take the book, have a mommy support group. It's something that I'm working on right now, is developing a virtual mommy support group so that you can read the book in a book group format. And we talk about chapters, and we bring in professionals like yourself, who helps identify and talk through some of the struggles that women are experiencing in these different areas for each chapter of the book. And I think that the biggest thing is, I would say, I guess the biggest takeaway is taking the time to know yourself, and what that looks like. And it can be something as simple as starting an identity journal, and talking about, what do I like? What don't I like? Who am I? Why do I like this? Why don't I like this? Is this influenced by somebody, or is this influenced by a true, authentic version of myself? If I could do this every day for the rest of my life, would I be happy? Would I be miserable? Asking yourself questions like that to help to get to know yourself. And once you take time to establish who you are, I feel like it's easier to say no to the things that take away from the life you want. And that leaves more room for you to say yes to the things that are contributing to the life that you want to live. And that life might not look like what society tells you is perfect for the superstar mom. And that's great. And you don't need to care.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. This is absolutely true. I have lived it in my own life. Many of the things that have brought me the utmost joy have been looked upon on first glance until I proved it to be amazing. My circle would go, huh? What? What are you talking about? You're crazy. And I'm like, you know what? Well, you're going to see. And sure enough, so I know this to be true. And, I love that you provide these tools that can have women get in there right off the cuff immediately. And I think that's powerful, because we do have those moments in the day. Write something in a journal. Start to get into that conversation with ourselves to dig deeper, because I'll tell you something else. And I know, I'm sure you'll relate, where we discover, and that might be good for now, but then there's a new discovery. Well, now the children are older, and maybe now the day's different. So now maybe this is a new, or I've evolved, or now, so it's, once we get into the ability to have these conversations with ourselves and plumb and discover, I think then life in general is easier to navigate, because as we reach each new stage of our life, then we can reassess anew from a sense of authenticity and comfort, and like, hey, that was cool back then, but you know what? Now this is seeming like a good idea, or this feels right. And we can navigate also walking our loved ones through the new shift, because sometimes we need to do that, as we decide new things. So I love that you're providing these recommendations and these chapters in your book to help women to navigate these very seemingly, not even seemingly, man, sometimes it's overwhelming. Sometimes it's overwhelming and hard. Yeah.
And I love that what you mentioned, because I think that's so true. And as you grow and keep developing your sense of self, you have more and more tools at your disposal, to really keep on that journey. And I think in our society, to segue just a little bit, in our society, we have such a penchant for an instant fix. Give me the pill, give me something to fix it today so I don't have to worry about it tomorrow. And I think a mentality shift of like, this is something you will work on till the day you die, and you will not regret a minute spent that you are working on yourself. All of those minutes add up. And you're in it for the long haul. You're in it forever. And it is not a task or something to be dreaded. It's a beautiful relationship that you get to have with yourself. And the more you invest in it, the better your life will become. And I think that people who are looking for a quick fix, you might not find it in this book, because this is where it's important that you take the time and you do the work. I can't do the work for you, even though there's many times I would love to come alongside you and be like, you got this, you can do it.
Yes.
But you really have to want to do the work, and you have to really be driven and motivated that you're like, I need to change my life. And real, true, authentic changes, as you know, they take time, they take work, and it takes a lot of failure and a lot of victories. And it takes that pursuit of not giving up and continuing to invest in yourself, regardless of the highs and the lows.
I love it so much, and I agree wholeheartedly. Please tell us where we can get your book and connect with you and visit you and sign up for everything. Let us all know again.
So you can find me on Facebook at Alyssa Brade Author. You can also find me on my website, alyssabrade.com. And then I have my book available in ebook. It's a paperback version as well as an Audible book version on Amazon. So if you're busy and you just need to pop your headphones in to listen in the car, you can also do that.
Fantastic. And we will absolutely have all of the links and all of the goodies in the show notes. And I know you're going to subscribe. Oh my gosh, you've already hit subscribe. You're like, oh, this is so good. I've subscribed everywhere that I can. Okay, to Your Best Podcast, because that's what you're doing. And I know that you're also going to reach out to me if you're interested in navigating life and its decisions and plumbing your emotions as you do these wonderful tasks, exercises with Alyssa, and you find that you're feeling, hey, this is a little bit headier. I want to get coached through this. I need support. I want support. I know you're going to reach out, and I'll have all my information there, teemaree.com or bestlifecoaching.online. No matter what, if you're listening, if you're watching, you are important. You are needed. You are wanted. You have great purpose. You are doing something magnificent being a mom, being a dad. It's okay. It is necessary to love yourself, care for yourself, and do for yourself like you do for those beautiful little humans that you brought into the world. You deserve it. Do it. It's for you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe and visit teemaree.com/free for more goodness. Woohoo!